pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, may we have a roll call?
Chair Wrench.
Present.
Vice Chair Stanley. Present. Commissioner Lance present. Alderwoman Day.
Here.
Commissioner Remington.
Here.
Commissioner Malecki.
Here.
Commissioner Kosler.
Here.
Non-voting member ex officio Leo Voss. Non-voting member ex officio Michelle Rente.
Here.
Kevin Schlater.
Here.
Principal Planner X.
Here.
Dale Borchert.
Here.
And I see John Nelson is present.
Good evening. Excellent. At this time, we could open the floor to any citizens for comment.
Good evening. My name is Tim Birch. I live at 7466 South 46th Street, Franklin. I'm here. I can't remember what item on the agenda. Is it down here? No. For the trails issue.
Can you? Yeah.
It's on.
Okay.
Great. So I'll speak up. I don't know how much you know about the history of this area. It was farmed when we moved here, and then the developer bought it, planned to put in a bunch of homes because of the wetland that runs through it and the creek and the trouble the crossing the creek and everything else. At that time, Alderman Wilhelm put the developer and MMSD in touch with each other. They have this Green Seams program. MMSD bought the property. The Green Seams program is designed. You can just say move on if you're familiar with all of this. Okay. So they bought the property to keep it out of development so that to control flooding, basically. All right. A year or two later, they ceded the property over to the city of Franklin, and it sat for a few years. Nothing ever happened with it. And then back when the high school was getting remodeled, the cross-country team lost their trail because of all the construction. And my neighbor and I used to run, I can't do it anymore, arthritic, but we mowed some paths in there, and the cross-country team started using it, and other people started using it, and it kind of developed from that. After his son graduated, he stopped taking care of it, so I've been basically the primary person dealing with these trails for the last decade. In 2017, we formalized an agreement with the city. I met with the alderman of the district, the city planner, the superintendent of public works, the city attorney, signed some document. I wish I had kept a copy, but I don't, but I remember it was in 2017, formalizing that agreement. And then this summer, bad things happen. All right. So, as former chairman of the Franklin Environmental Commission, as past president of the Milwaukee Area Land Conservancy, as current college professor who teaches a class in sustainability, I feel mortified that I started messing about in a wetland. It didn't even occur to me, and it was my fault, and I've lost sleep over it, and I just feel really bad about it. However, I don't think the city of Franklin, its citizens, and everyone else who comes to use this property should be punished because of my stupidity. So what I'm asking for you folks to do is to endorse the use of these trails and my continued work on them. If you looked at your website, you actually mentioned the mowed trails on the park's website. If you go to MMSD and you hear one of the former landowners who gave part of the property to, this is the St. Nicholas parcel, She talks about how it's a park for the enjoyment of people. Well, if you can't access it without getting covered in ticks, then it's not very enjoyable. So all I would like to do is to go back to how it was before. I'm totally willing to work with you and the Environmental Commission. I'm kind of disappointed the Environmental Commission keeps putting off these meetings because I want to talk to them. Put in another plug. In addition to mowing these trails, if you go through there in spring, you will not find any garlic mustard. I don't know if you know about garlic mustard. That's non-native invasive. That's me. If you go through there in the summer, late summer, and there's a trail that goes along the wetland, you won't find any purple loosestrife. That's also me. I've been trying to work on the buckthorn, but that's kind of a bigger deal. So without access to the property, it's been neglected by the city. It's just going to get worse. I don't see anyone else coming forward to do it. So I hope I can get your endorsement. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other citizens with comments?
Hello all. I brought show and tell. This is a photograph, front page.
Can we
of
do
the
name and address, please, for the record?
Oh, sorry. Hello. My name is Joseph Allen, and I am a resident of Milwaukee, 3651 South 14th Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am a non-resident of Franklin, but since about 2011, I've been utilizing these trails as one of my primary training grounds. This is dated January 3rd, 2013. So, 2010, I got involved with the Door County Sled Dogs, and that's how I met Mr. Birch. We were all volunteers for this nonprofit organization, and that's basically how I got involved with it. These trails essentially saved my life. I was on a road, and long story short, I spent a lot of time at these trails. And part of that was maintaining these trails. For years now, for over a decade now, I've been an arborist and a horticulturalist, and I help maintain these trails. I'm the arborist that clears the trails when there's trees down. These trails are very important to us. Our community, as the dog sledding community, and just people in Franklin and Milwaukee in general, we use these trails. We love these trails. And if we lose access to these trails, then it's going to be just a big loss. So I'm going to end it there. I'm rambling, so I apologize, but this is really important to us. This is a really vital piece of property, and to go after anybody that helps to try to maintain these just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm sorry if we disrespected the property, but we care about it a lot. We have maintained it. We've gone to great lengths to maintain it for many years. So we'd like to keep it that way. We'd like to keep it nice and open for everybody. That's it. Thank you much.
Are there any other citizens?
Good evening. My name's Teresa Lozanecki. I live at 5025 Spruce Court in Greendale. I'm right across the border. I have been utilizing these trails for the past 5 years with my dogs as well. We all tend to rescue dogs from the Humane Society and various other places. There's a lot of huskies out there who really need care. And having found this group of people running these trails has brought even more people into this loop, so we can have 8, 10, 12 people running dogs out there and exercising. And not just these dogs. We see people out there cross-country skiing. We see people out there snowshoeing. We see people bird watching. We see people jogging these trails. We see parents with their kids walking and just enjoying it, along with that beautiful playground that's there. And that wouldn't be possible if Tim hadn't been maintaining these trails, because he does an incredibly beautiful job, not just in the summer where you can just drive a lawnmower. He goes out there in the winter, and he maintains these trails so that everybody can use them, not just the dog sledders. I also noticed I'd been out there recently, and yes, we did something we should not have done, and we are so apologetic about that. We wanted to fix it when we found out that we shouldn't have been doing that, and the police officers told us, no, we should not fix it, just leave it how it is. And that was 3-4 months ago now, and nothing has been put back. There are now big trenches in the middle of the trails, which are a safety risk as well. So my argument is nobody's taking care of these trails anymore, and we need somebody who does care about these trails to start taking care of them again. That's it. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Howard Smith, 7953 West Coventry Drive, Franklin. I'm not affiliated with the Mushers at all, but I do use the trails for walking my dog, riding my mountain bike, taking my daughters out there. We don't have a dog park in Franklin. I know it's not a dog park, but it's sort of the closest thing we've got. The majority of people I see out there are typically walking dogs. So it seems to me it definitely should remain open. I guess, I don't know what your budget is, and I know you have competing priorities, but if you've got a group of motivated people who want to keep it open, that seems like the right thing to do. Thanks.
Can I ask you once more? I didn't catch your name.
Sure. Howard Smith.
Howard Smith. Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Leroy Lewandowski, 8030 West Winston Way. Recently, Kayla Park was upgraded with $200,000 on the floor, and they also put it appears, into the places where should be flowers. One of the things that this park commission is kind of not looking out for the children. Way back when this park was opened up, the children were crawling all over the buildings and everything. I made a phone call to Michelle Runte and told her about it, and she says to me, "Didn't you ever fall out of a tree?" Well, since that day, that's 8 years ago, and it's been 8 years of letting the children until this sign came up. And when people do that, to have injury to people. There also is an issue that I have with the parks that have just the wood chips. The wood chips don't last more than about 15 minutes when a child sits down and kicks it around. There is a process where we can put down pads to protect them right under there. If you get up and Google a little bit, you'll see the different size of pads. Right now, I have seen in one of the warehouses in Franklin, the guy has about 300 of these pads, and you can get them all sizes. I feel that we should get rid of the chips and put those pads there so that it would be the equivalent of that rubber-sized Kayla Park. It's dangerous for the children when it's gone. It's hard ground. But this is what we ought to stop and put some money into, that type of thing. And then there is the tree issue that's been going on for a year or more. The trees were put in wrong. They were put in on an angle with the ball. And I just found out recently that it was a contractor. If it was a contractor, it's up to our city to go after the contractor and remove it and fix them. Why are we waiting? I've been after that for a long time. It's a shame that we have to put up with that. Who is in charge of the parks? What person? Planning? Him? Who? No responsibility? That's what's wrong. And if you look at some of the trails that we got, or bicycle trails, or whatever you want to call them, those trails are at least 2 inches below sod. Therefore, they act as a river to take the rain away. The grass is supposed to, or the sidewalk is supposed to be 2 inches above the ground or the sod. We or somebody is not doing their job. We need something of a different manager. We had an engineer here, and I don't understand why he went, but I was after him to get rid of him for 9 years. And I hope that we got some new people in. Incidentally, I was talking about those pads. There are all kinds of them. I had my nephew's wife one day Google, and she showed me all the different kind of pads. And I don't understand why you people are part of the park and you're doing nothing for those other small.
All right, I'm going to cut you off. We go through this every time you come here. We're a volunteer committee. We don't appreciate you coming up here and claiming you people, which some people find offensive, that we're done. Thank you. Have a seat. Thank you. We go through this every time you come. Same message, same conversation. Thank you. Any other citizens?
Good evening. John Nelson, 7787 South North Cape Road, current mayor. I came up here to talk about a different item, but first I'll address Mr. Lewandowski's concerns about the trees. I have Mr. Tom Ria as our city arborist. He has reached out to him more than once to address his concerns, and he will be again addressing if it is an issue with a vendor. We'll take care of it. I want to thank all of you for the jobs you do because it is thankless, as you're experiencing, and that, it takes dedication. I served on the Parks Commission before I was elected as an alderman, and I understand the importance of the green space to our city and importance of protecting our natural resources. Transitioning to what I actually want to talk about was there's going to be some discussion coming up about fees for rentals, fees that I believe are too low. What I mean by that is if you're a resident of the city of Franklin and you live here and you recreate here, you should be afforded the cheapest rate to use your facilities. However, we've got a lot that come here that are not residents of the city of Franklin. They come here and they book the facilities because we are the cheapest. And Mr. Wrench can attest, as working for the Parks Department, there's a whole rental, hierarchy and fee structure and what's allowed, what's not allowed, and there's certain things that I think you're going to hear in a little bit later that I don't believe we should be allowing any further. I want to see my own personal view as sitting up there as I did is what and how can we benefit our citizens. Number one, our citizens, Franklin citizens that want to use their facilities. And if somebody's coming out to rent ours because, wow, Franklin's the cheapest, they can do this, that, and the next thing, and then they leave our staff, which are already short-staffed, that to try to clean these places, make sure they're opened, locked, everything's working. It's a lot of work, and we want to make sure that we are having appropriate fee structure and also putting in rules and guidelines. Bounce houses, why? Certain areas that we don't need to go down this path, and I urge you to look into this and as you hear more of this coming forward. Thank you for your time and for what you do.
Anybody else?
My name is Rob Burney, 8553 South 68th Street in Franklin. I today walked for an hour on Victory Creek Trail, and it is a beautiful trail. And I urge you not to eliminate access to that trail. I use it 5 times a week. It is beautiful walking back in that area. It connects to the park, Pleasant View Park. And today, walking through there, I saw 8 to 10 people walking at lunch through that area. back through the trees, back in the back row, all the way out to the farm on the east side. It is a beautiful trail, and we don't want to see it removed from access. So please keep it the way it is. Let these people do what they do, because it's lovely. You don't find a park like that anywhere. Let's not wreck it. Thank you.
Any other citizens with a comment? We'll close that period then. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the November meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I just have one comment. Usually I send the minutes in, and then usually I'll get them back. I didn't get them back this time. I just want to add the addition of the word under citizen comment period. After noting the misuse of ATVs, the word by should be put in before youth. And then I would second that.
All right, I amend my motion to approve the minutes with the adjustment.
Do we have a second?
I said.
She
I'll
seconded?
second,
All right.
yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Awesome. The ayes have it. Thank you. We will work down the list for a little bit here. We'll go to unfinished business. Letter A, update on parks maintenance.
Okay, this month, all the restrooms were winterized, so they're all set to go for the winter. Can you hear me? Okay. All the restrooms were winterized. Pleasant View has one restroom open, and also Franklin Woods has one restroom open, and also Ken Wendell is, well, I shouldn't say that. That's closed. Sorry. Leaves have been cleaned up at Legend and Ken Wendell, the two big parks that have a lot of leaves. Tennis, pickleball, and volleyball nets all have been taken down, along with windscreens. Picnic tables are all stacked for the winter, and trail markers are put out, have been put out on the trails that get plowed over winter. So that's pretty much it. Any questions?
The restroom at Ken Wendell is closed for maintenance or just closed?
It gets closed for winter because there's no heat in the outside restroom, so we have to open it up to the inside of the building so it can get heated, so the pipes don't freeze.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll jump to letter B, the budget. Parks Commission request for information on parks finance.
I don't have any updated items for this. If the commission has questions or things they want to address at the next meeting, let me know.
Sounds great. For all the people in attendance, we'll jump to letter H. We'll go with the Victory Creek Trail mowing and natural resources. The discussion of the volunteer mowing by the Victory Creek Trails by Tim Birch and related impacts to natural resources.
Where would you like to start?
So if I remember from the last time, and I could be wrong because it was a while ago, we had some mowing that was done back through along the trails where some of it may or may not be in MMSD land, some of it's in parkland. Allegedly, there was some type of writing and permission from the city back 7 years ago, but we didn't have a copy of that at the time. And there was also work done where there were structures that were built, unbeknownst to anybody, and we didn't have plans for them. So there were safety issues and things along the line.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. First off, I cannot find any agreement with the city. I checked with the clerk's office. I checked with previous superintendent that worked here at the time. No one was given permission to be in there. There was talk of it. There was a letter drawn up, but it was never taken to council that we can find and approved. So that's the first thing. What brought this on was we were doing a tour of the park with MMSD because we're looking at doing controlled burns in that park. And that's when we came upon the trenching that's been taking place. And that's what started this whole thing. Some of the trails do go on to MMSD property that Franklin has no say in whatsoever. They told me, they checked with their law department, no permission has been given for them to be on any of the land that they've granted. So I guess where we're at is we're going to start looking at doing controlled burns. We're going to be taking it to council. The people that we're looking at doing the controlled burns do not want trails mowed in a certain way because it can lead to problems when they do their controlled burn. So take the paths that are in there out of this equation. We want to take it over so we can do what they want done, so we can do the controlled burns properly. So that's where we're at. I don't want to argue about the paths. I'm not going there. We just want it ended so we can take over control. We believe all maintenance in the park should be done by DPW, so we know what's going on, who's doing it, and big one for liability purposes. There's more things going on in there than we knew. We're finding culverts all over, piping. We can't do that. It's a natural drainage area. It has to stay that way. I'm not talking about me making these decisions. I'm talking about MMSD is the one telling us. And that's where we acquired the land from, so we kind of have to respect that. But again, take that out of it. We want to probably come to Parks Commission next month proposing some controlled burns. We have to do it in a particular way. So, I just don't want to argue about the paths because it's just not.
So the intent, though, is not to remove the trails in there, it's just the city would take over? Is that what you're saying?
We'll take over whatever all of us agree upon. And we'll do as we're instructed, but it needs to be controlled. It needs to be what we all agree upon. And having trails everywhere and on land that's not really where we should be, I just want it more controlled for liability, for everything. Because if we let one in, why are we not letting everybody do what they want in the parks? And believe me, we get many requests for people to do things in the parks constantly, and we just can't. That's the way I feel. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Controlled burn, is that for early spring?
We would shoot for spring if we can get all the contracts in line. Yeah, we're going to do it in stages.
Sure.
How often do you do that?
Well, right now they're looking at doing like 3 controlled burns in stages, maybe 1 or 2 this coming year and another one the following year if weather cooperates. And then it would be like every other, until they make the decision on how much it needs and how often. Maybe we only have to do it once or twice and we're done for a while. That would be our hope. Because it is in pretty good shape. I mean, they've all looked at it and said it's really in good shape, so 1 or 2 burns might do it, and then it would just be a maintenance burn every now and then.
Is it in good shape because they've been helping? And you say the city's going to take it over. Is the city going to take it over and do all of the mowing that has been done in the past?
We'll do what we, as a commission and ourselves, decide should be mowed and shouldn't be mowed. Because some of them are getting quite extensive. And they're requiring culverts to be put in because they're crossing low areas. And that's something we're not supposed to be doing.
And I understand that. I know the importance of wetlands and all that, and I really do realize that was wrong, but I use those trails all the time too with my dog, and I really hate to lose any of them.
I'm not saying they all got to come out. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we should take control of it so we know what's going on in it.
Kevin, I have a
Yeah.
question. Prior to some of the work that was done by the group that's here this evening, how many of the trails were there prior to that the city may have either put in on our own or was thought about as being a trail system? Do you know offhand? And how many were kind of created as offshoots from from the work they were doing?
Only ones the city was part of were the paved ones.
Okay.
And we mow so many feet next each side of the
And have we still been doing that of the
Yes.
paved ones? So the work that is being discussed tonight are things outside of what the city had put in. So there would still be trails there. It just might not be all of the trails that have been created.
Right, correct. There would just be
Okay.
the paved trails.
Okay.
And there would be none on MMSD property
Mhm.
that they control themselves, that the city has
Correct.
no control over.
And I'm in your camp for the most part. I believe the city does need to have maintenance of all of our trail systems in our parks, just for continuity, for liability, for a whole host of reasons. And I understand that that you're short-staffed, everybody's short-staffed, so not everything is going to get attention as soon as it may need to be mowed or checked on, but there does need to be consistency across the board. So I do agree with what you're saying for the most part.
Thank you.
We had the arborist with us last meeting who talked about the controlled burns. Are they going on in other park areas besides this one? And
Not at this time.
when was the last time the city did controlled burns like this?
Not since I've been here.
So
We
you
haven't.
just selected this park because what reason? I think the arborist would probably answer that, and they're not here tonight, right? But
Yep.
what's the reason for selecting this particular area for this process that hasn't been done in such a long time?
Just the size of the park, and we don't have any other park with the wild areas, you might say.
Right, because I agree with your consistency in the parks, but we've never discussed control burns since I've been on this committee and know of any done by the city before, so.
To my knowledge, there have not been any in the city of Franklin. They're considered a best practice for the maintenance of like prairie landscapes. And so the Environmental Commission has discussed them as a recommendation. This particular area of lands has been set aside as a floodplain conservancy, as was discussed a little bit earlier. And so there are like best practice manuals that MMSD puts forward. That's something I can bring. The Environmental Commission has reviewed some of that material, and I could bring it to this commission to help share some information about kind of why this is happening. My thought process is that they probably made a recommendation about it at MMSD, because it's a natural space. The city has a couple of other places where we've talked about recommending that in future, but right now there's not as much like open space planning being done in terms of like what landscapes look like. So
So you said
Milwaukee
MS
Metropolitan Sewerage District, MMSD.
They made a recommendation to do the burn for this particular area?
I don't know that for sure, but I have had conversations with them about the site itself and just like that it's a prairie, and that's a best practice for them. So
Agreeing on the point that the citizens can't just go and do what they would like on city land, for sure. That would involve litigation, and that's something else that we talked about at the last meeting, that there would be some kind of litigation. Is that happening with this case, or is it moving forward in that side at all?
Regarding the
damage that was done to the wetlands that we discussed at the last parks meeting.
that would be between the gentleman and the police department or courts.
Okay, so we don't know if there is or isn't?
the DNR put it back in the city's court to resolve. So, I mean, I would hope that the trenches get filled back in, but they were aware of the wetland encroachment. Typically, that would require permitting, but because of where it's located and that it's part of a park, they put it back in our court. So,
and then just a little clarity on, there was mention of the agreement between the citizen and the city in the Common Council minutes from when the mayor was on that committee, I believe, right? And Mary, you were also on that. So it isn't a citizen going on the property and doing what they want. There was some kind of arrangement back then. And we did get an example of that letter, but there's no signed copy of it. So there was some structure to what was agreed upon.
and they've already said they went outside of that scope, right? But there's lots of evidence that says that they were really doing a great job to make a community in that area. So I'm just trying to put my thumb on why this area, why now? Is the arborist seeing something that we don't know? Are the trees facing the wrong way? I mean, I don't know.
Joe again. I'm a degree horticulturalist and arborist. I'm a forester for GRG Playscapes. We do all natural playgrounds.
I don't think we're allowed to take public comment at this time. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
So
Those are just the things that I would be curious about, because it seems like a surprise to us, like none of us have heard of burning. I know what the practice is. I live on farmland, so I understand what the practice is, but I don't understand why it's at this committee level now to discuss whether we're moving forward with something that we've not done before.
It sounded like they did a tour with MMSD, and MMSD found these trenches and culverts and things beyond the scope of just the mowing of the trails.
Which
Maybe
is
nothing would have
right.
been said if it was just mowing.
MMSD highly recommends we do the burn. It's not something we're just looking
Sure,
at
I'm just
doing it. We're
curious why this area, though, because there's lots of wetlands and there's lots of areas, that need maintenance.
in the
We
park
talked
system.
Well, yeah, we talk about buckthorn, we talk about invasive species, we talk about trails and paths. Sure.
For a burn?
Well, for maintenance, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we want consistency, right? So I'm just trying to find the consistency in this new way of, maintaining our city parks. That's all.
Well, right now we mow the park every fall. So if this is something we can do as a burn, that would help us not have to do mowings every year. That helps us out. So, which is what we're planning on, not mowing once we start the burnings.
Sure. And then the regeneration period is how long after the burn?
That's all stuff we have to work through. That's why we're just starting this process.
And then the next question, follow-on, would be, what's the use of that area after that? Is it just become the regular paths, no paths in between, not used at all? Is it going to become a part of parks inventory that we would, have some kind of policy to write about?
Are you talking about the wetland?
The area that they're going to burn.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think Kevin mentioned it earlier that I think DPW may be open to mowing a trail or two back in there, not as extensive as it is, but that would be something we'd have to decide at the committee level.
Okay.
The problem that we run into is the other structures that were put into the area, the culverts that were added. I believe there was a picture of a bridge over a creek that was put in, or a small little pathway, and then the trenching and the digging that was done causes some concerns and some issues. And I think everything was meant with good intentions, and then I think that whether the area was too wet for trails or something that came through, and then something was added and something was added, all done in good heart and in good spirit, but at the end of the day, there becomes liability issues on public ground too. It is in somebody's backyard that, unless it was approved by engineering and went through planning and went through processes, which at times can be very frustrating with the government, but there's also a reason why, that everybody needs to cover their own ass when everything goes in and goes through that process. So
Is there a long-term plan for this particular area then? Or is it just, this is the starting point of saying we burn it first and then we make a plan for its utilization later?
Like I say, we're in the very early stages of starting this, and more to come.
So yes, okay.
So
If the trails aren't there though, and you try, in wetlands, everything grows up really fast, and they will be totally unapproachable too.
Sure. So this area is something you guys usually flail mow or knock back, once it's frozen?
Yeah, we're trying to keep the buckthorn down.
Sure, yeah. So the trail would technically be gone until spring anyway, or knocked down. So if you burn it, come back, fairly quick too. So.
To respond to the question about the long-term plan for those lands, they are a floodplain conservancy. So the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan shows them as such. Some portions are under a conservation easement that is permanent, and it is through MMSD, so it would not be something the city would have the ability to alter. And then in terms of what the Corp envisions for that park area overall, there are additional trails envisioned to connect up to 35th Street and up through the neighborhood in that direction. But, I mean, that's all subject to funding and other approvals. So conceptually, it's in the plan, though. But the purpose of these lands is to be that floodplain conservancy. So.
And that would go through Environmental Commission, correct?
What would?
The whole part about the conservancy, working with the conservancy and the agreement of the use of that area.
So one lot is under a conservation easement that cannot be altered. It's MMSD's easement. And then the rest of it, I would have to look again. But conservation easements are typically something that if the city has an easement on a lot, goes to Common Council. So Environmental Commission reviews them if they're part of a variance application, if someone's trying to do something unusual. So there are contexts where if it was in a park, it might be something we would bring to you so that you could recommend changes to the text of the easement. They're not totally fixed, but yeah.
Thanks for that info. The Environmental Commission, they've been meeting quorum, and
They have not had quorum for 3 meetings now, unfortunately. So we lost a member again. I also staff that commission, and unless if one person is unable to make it, then they don't have quorum. So.
And we're actively soliciting for volunteers for that commission as well.
Mm-hmm. We've had a chat about that, so pretty recently.
Consolidation for our 2 committees is moot point now, or still ongoing?
It is still a goal for the department to figure out if that's possible, but given where we are right now, and it's not on the agenda for a discussion this evening, we haven't moved on it since the last time you saw it. So,
Thanks, Marian. Appreciate all that info.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Thank you. So I guess moving forward.
Yeah. I just got a couple of things.
Go
I took a walk through the trails recently. I just wanted to show a couple pictures. Okay, this is back in July when we had a meeting with MMSD and the company that would do the burn, and this is what we found: the trenches that were dug. So, I guess to me, if you're going to take care of trails, I think this is really irresponsible to leave a tripping hazard here, a major tripping hazard here, and it shows. I mean, to me, it really shows irresponsibility. What was the plan? I don't know, but just to leave the trail unearthed like this, I mean, the trench like this. Someone walks through there when it's getting dark. That's a major problem. Here's another trench. I mean, I don't know. I guess I didn't measure the length of the trenches, but I would say well over 100 feet of trenching here. Yes.
Guys, we're not taking comments
we're not
right
arguing. I'm just making a point here. Okay, you do that. Here's another trench, another view of it. Here's a trench that someone started filling in. We don't know who did that. I was told not to fill it in. We're supposed to leave it as is. Someone started filling it in. Don't know who did that. That's a recent photo of last week. Here's a photo of some stepping blocks that were put in by someone at some point. So, I mean, things are being done without asking anybody in the city for permission. I don't think that's right. Just to do what you want to do. Here's a set of 3 culverts that was put in. The stone is coming off the top of them, turning into a hazard, in my opinion. Here's a side view of that same culvert. Culverts were never approved as part of this agreement. Here's another culvert, plastic culvert. I think it was a 12-inch culvert.
put on the trail. This is right out of the prairie area where it starts going into the woods up to the north. I don't know who put this bridge in. This bridge was put in at some time. Who's inspecting this bridge to make sure it's safe? It was unapproved. If you go further into the woods here, there's plank with cross pieces put down in low areas to get over, wet areas when it's wet. I don't have pictures of those. Here's a picture of someone's leaves in the area. I would guess one of the residents nearby dumped their leaves here. I'm not saying this group did it or not, but this is one of the things we have to deal with in parks. Similar, right next to this, there's a woods. Some people started tapping trees a few years ago for sap. People just do what they want and don't ask any permission. I don't think that's right. So,
100% agree with that. I would just say, though, that the folks that have come and talked to us today, they were operating under the assumption that they had, permission to do certain things to maintain the trails under how they felt was maintaining it. And it sounds like you guys progressively have seen it. Was this all a surprise, or like this is since 2017? Is it all a surprise this year that we see these changes and modifications being made, or is this a progression that's happened? Like, you talked about the plowing that was done without permission, and now you're showing us more pictures of the leaves and stuff. And 100% agree, you cannot do just whatever you want to do. But some of these things are the legal side, which we just talked about. The other part is maintaining the trails, right? And it sounds like a lot of people get benefit in this community and get a sense of community from this area.
Like Kevin said, we're not proposing getting rid of trails. We will mow the trails that we decide will be mowed.
I appreciate you saying
but
that.
Again, going on, there's piles of buckthorn that someone cut that they just leave there. So they're cutting buckthorn. This was found in the past, not just this year. I saw the piles again this year. We tried to get rid of part of them, but we didn't finish that. But people cutting buckthorn and just leaving piles, that's with no permission. You think? I don't think that's right.
Malk going in and doing that? I just saw a community page mention of they're doing buckthorn eradication. The gentleman that came in and talked with us about how he was certified to do buckthorn eradication with the chemicals that he gets from Milwaukee County.
My God.
I know they've recently done some.
In Pleasant View Park, there was a group that, under our stormwater management permit, they work with us. It's Root Pike Wind. They have done a buckthorn project in this park. Malk owns their own lands. So to my knowledge, and I imagine to the rest of staff's knowledge, if they've been doing that on city property, it has not been in coordination with the city. So, but they have a lot of their own land locally that I know they do work on. So,
just finishing my input here. I'd just like to say that the culverts weren't approved. Trenches aren't approved. In the wintertime, someone's driving their snowmobile on these mowed trails, and they cross our paved trails. Now, what happens is we don't get to plow our paved trails until we're done plowing streets. So it may be a couple days later when we get to the paved trails when we plow them. If they come over with snowmobiles with the mowed trails and they cross our paved trails before they're plowed, it packs down the snow such that didn't happen quite as much the past 2 years, but when we got more snow, I could not get through with a 1-ton dump truck with a plow on it without ramming the snow, the packed snow, because it was packed down with snowmobiles. I don't think that's right. we have to do what we have to do to plow the paved trails, and we can't deal with extra work just because someone packed them down with snowmobiles. And I don't think snowmobiles in the park is the right thing either. You shouldn't have any motorized vehicles in the park. So that's a problem for me. I don't want to beat the equipment to try to get through with the plow. So I think that's a problem. We can't coordinate with someone that's going to drive snowmobiles through. Hey, you call the snowmobile guy so he doesn't drive on the trail so we can make it through on our paved trails. I don't think that's really our responsibility to do all that legwork just to plow our trails. So it's creating extra work for us, which I don't think is necessary. If we had control of the trails, we wouldn't have that problem. I guess, and then I guess one thing that was brought up on one gentleman said neglected by the city. I was told to stay away from some of this stuff because of I don't know what the issues were. So to be fair, we didn't do a lot of this stuff. I mean, get into the whole these parcels of land, and if we do have control, we'll take responsibility and do all the work. One other thing to mention. These trails, they work east from Pleasant View Park onto a couple parcels that the city owns, and then there's a strip of MMSD land. And from talking to them when we were met out there for the burn, it didn't sound like they wanted anybody cutting any trails on their land. So that's what I got out of the meeting. And these trails extend into their land and into our. We have another strip east of their land and into that parcel also. So I don't think MMSD wants us cutting any trails on their property. That's what I got out of the meeting. So that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you.
Always at the meetings, you complain that you and Kevin both complain about how you're so short-handed all the time and how you need other people. And we've been talking in the past about having, we even have it on the agenda, Friends of the Parks. Why can't we just put this all on hold for now? You do your burn, and I agree that this is terrible what's happened here, but we get together after the burn and see if we can communicate better. And I mean, this would be a benefit. You guys wouldn't have to do so much work, and you wouldn't be so short-handed. And you would decide where the trails would work, and let them do some of it like they have been doing for the last however long. So
Keep
do
in
the
mind,
burn and take care and drop everything. They get off the trails now, and the snowmobiles are, I think, a different issue. Anyway, just put it all on hold till after the burns are done, and then we talk about setting up this Friends of Park. We've talked about that in the past, and we do need it at other parks, especially with all the buckthorn going on. And then we meet after the burn and try and communicate this better, or look at it again, table it until then. I don't know. I just thought the trails were a benefit, and I hate the city having to go through all that much more work, especially when we're trying to get things started on that new park on the northwest or southwest corner, and that's all overgrown too. It would be nice if there were trails in there.
Is it possible, like, to create a subcommittee and have discussions on this and show what you can and can't do and what you'd like to see done? Instead of bringing it out in the public like this, I think a subcommittee would be an awesome thing to do. Meeting with them, meeting with you. Is that not a thing that happens in Franklin? I don't know.
Are empowered to sometimes create subcommittees. They're usually either for a specific purpose or in response to a request of Common Council, but I would have to review your commission rules in order to know exactly what the process was.
Because communication is really important, and they're just trying to help you and or the public, and I think they need to know what they need to do then. You can set policies there, and just a thought. Because it sounds like nobody knows what's going on, and it's just being done, and they're trying to do their best, and
Please keep in mind, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
That we can find no evidence of anybody being approved to do this. And this has been an issue for many years. I talked to the previous administration. They absolutely said no permission was granted. It's been going back and forth for years. It's gotten to the point where it's out of control, and we need to bring it back for many reasons. Liability being a big one. The burn being an issue also. So this is the time we felt we need to get this under control once and for all.
well, I do think volunteers in our parks is a huge thing, and it has to be worked out in some manner.
But we have to keep in mind with things that are going on in the parks, we have a liability issue. And it's my job to protect the city. And if the commission and the mayor and the council decide they want something else, I abide by that. But right now, I have to protect the city. And liability plays into this big time.
Just a couple of quick points to add to kind of bring it home is we absolutely are, the main concern is the liability point. If somebody gets hurt on here, walking over one of those culverts, walking over something that fails. However, the positive end is the citizens that have taken it upon to clear these trails out. So it's there's somehow there has to be a happy medium. I think it can work somehow, but Mr. Schlueter is he's 100% right. Our superintendent, so is Dale. It's about the city's liability. And if somebody's walking on there and they break an ankle, who are they going to sue? They're going to sue somebody. And we have to make sure that we actually have that covered. Now, as far as it getting cut and done to a spec that we can agree with, 100% agree. People want to use the trails. It's a fantastic trail. Mr. Birch and his crew, I've been dealing with this for years, and I believe that we have to come to some fruition, but I believe it's reasonable somehow to have a group, because I know this exists in other counties in the state, the northern ones that don't have, that really, really strapped, where they have people that take upon and do rough cuts on trails. But a rough cut is one thing, putting and changing an infrastructure is another. And I think that's where the thing is as long as we can do a rough cut or something like that for the maintenance, somehow work that out with some sort of liability waiver. There's ways to do this, is my point. And it's a great trail. Citizens love it. They come, it's wonderful. And I just know that there's a way to figure it out. And I'll challenge Alderwoman Day to help me come to a conclusion.
Yes.
Thank you.
I was somewhat going down the same path. So, and also going off of what Mary was saying, we have the thought that we want to make this Friends of the Parks group kind of to help with some of the things that keep coming up. So my proposal, I think, for right now was perhaps not necessarily table this, but for now to say the city's going to take over this area for now. Let's get our portion, the city's portion of it. We know that we're taking care of it. The part that's MMSD, we can't do anything to, and it does not sound at this point that anybody should be doing anything to it. It's not ours. The stuff in the wetland, we should not be doing anything to, regardless if there's a trail cut on it or not. It's wetland. We should not be on it. However, this committee should make it a priority because we do have many parks, many trails, many areas that we know from previous meetings that we just don't have enough bodies in the city to maintain things the way that everybody would love them to be. and we very clearly have residents that want to help. So there is a way to do this. I think for right now, though, with the plans that are in place, we need to move forward to let DPW do what they need to do with MMSD for the controlled burn. And we need to work on now, as we're entering the winter months, figuring out this committee, what we want that Friends of the Park or whatever we want that to look like. And then whether that's a subcommittee or whether that's us coming up with a plan and soliciting volunteers to do it, and then, some sort of liability waiver that allows people to do something. Yes, but right now I think with everything going on there, I think we just need to kind of hit the stop button, let our city staff do what they need to do, and then revisit this once we have a clearer understanding of what we think residents can help with.
Just one last thing, what we learned at the Milwaukee County Parks was a term called recreational immunity, where if somebody's using your facility outdoors, that's nearly impossible to keep everything 100%. That's one way to look at this when it comes down to something like this that may be there, which has a use and a purpose, but not necessarily put in by us. And I'll yield. And thank you for your time.
So taking a look at this, I feel that we should go ahead and let the city take care of the controlled burn, and that we should revisit this as far as the maintenance of the area after that is complete. I don't know anybody else. I think everybody's kind of stated their piece. I think I would be in favor of the city going through and doing a rough cut on some mowing sections as it's agreed upon by the group here, knowing that maintenance, they're struggling for staff and for maintenance. I do appreciate the fact that people want to help. Personally, I'm not the biggest fans of friends groups, but I have a lot of reasons why, and we'll bring those up later. But I also feel that when you have people that want to help, you try to use them in ways that benefit and go from there. But I think that, I don't want to say table this, but we'll set this aside until probably like the February meeting. By then, we'll have the mowing plan in place, or the burning plan in place. We'll be able to address it and go from there.
The last thing I wanted to mention was the repair of these areas. The reason we're not going is I was waiting for a good hard freeze, so that when we take it, we're going to put a small machine in there.
Sure.
I didn't want to rut anything up and cause any more issues.
No.
So now that we're getting in, well, today probably took some of the frost out of the ground, but once we get a good hard frost, we'll go in and use our machine and clean it.
Sure, fill the holes back in.
Yep.
Look like drainage or something somebody was going to try to put in, but yeah. Okay, excellent. Thank you. We'll move on to letter C, park facilities reservation and permitting policies. Discussion of reservation policies for league sports and other groups, fees, rules, and policies for parks.
Returning to your regular agenda. So the clerk's office is proposing to update their permits for all parks areas. And so the comment that I received from them is that if we are going to have a reservation policy for leagues this year, that they would recommend that there be a fee charged for that. And then there is also secondarily the overall permit for like individual pavilion uses, et cetera. So those are kind of the two subtopics here. But they were very much wondering why the city is not charging for those league reservations. So,
Are you talking league reservations?
Pickleball and
correct.
Because they are with the school running the rec department leagues.
and
They have a software program that they do that on.
I thought you were gonna try to put the software before the council again.
So,
I mean, this all comes back to that all the time.
Who at the city is going to take reservations and collect fees, and how are we able to charge the,
I mean, this would probably pay for itself in the end. Person in the software, once it's set up, it would pay for itself.
They actually don't have anybody to run it though. They've decided not to get a person to come in and do that.
We're passing up a lot of money by not even being able to take money in for these reservations, and this is really such a problem to have to do it by hand. There's software that's available that would help a lot, and I know you need a person to run the software, but in the end, it would pay for itself. I mean, a lot of
I agree. What do you want me to say, Mary? Of course I agree with you. It makes perfect sense, but if whatever software is out there can be identified and that information go to IT Director Metalski, we're good. Whatever streamlines things and makes it more smooth and efficient.
It didn't pass the budget.
Yeah, it got shot
For
down in the
25.
budget.
So there was a proposal that was put forward by this commission, which included a price range, and we've reviewed 5 software packages. Mr. Metalski has kind of looked at some of them and not others. But there is no agreement about who would be operating the software, and as a result, that was my understanding of why it was not placed in the mayor's recommended budget. So,
However, we can bring something back and put that through the clerk's budget if it's the clerks that are going to, because the clerks take all the reservations. So if that software is to be used by them, that's fine. However, I mean, it's not like it's a hard no. If it can be done, that's fine. I mean, whatever, this is not like the evil one is stop this. It's how can we get it done? Can we afford it? Is it cost effective? And is it streamlined? And if it checks at least 4 of the 5 boxes, then we move forward with it. And I think, we are to the point with parks, the rentals, that it can afford it. And we're looking at, our goal simply is to be cost neutral with our rentals, meaning cost neutral after staff, after everything is done, said and done, labor to get it done, it's cost neutral. That's our goal. And if the software helps with that, not opposed to it, but we had a very, very, very tight budget, and our goal was to not, have a negative impact on everything we touch is going to have a negative impact on taxpayers. Okay? So we want to be able to sure that we are in line with where we want to go. Alderwoman Day would probably agree with that as well, but we're not, if something can be brought forth that would streamline, we're open to it. But we do have to, our fee structure is way too low.
I think we also have to think about when you say taking over leagues, what leagues? There's a lot that the rec department does, and I don't know that you're talking about taking over all their, so that would have to be
So
addressed.
the request from the clerk's office, or what they would like to know, is if the commission would entertain the idea of not that the city take on the rec department's role in leagues, because the school district is separate from the city and their role is as that education provider, but the facilities have a cost to the city, and they think that, or it was communicated to me that they wanted to talk about charging a fee for these league reservations, the multi-week reservations that have occurred.
I'm just saying, aren't there soccer leagues, or is that just a little different? You're talking courts specifically?
For the pickleball courts, yeah, the reservations. So there's the multiple groups that reserve time.
And you're talking the rec's time of their leagues, that they run their leagues and then reserving courts if people in the city want to reserve courts?
Currently, there's no way to reserve courts for a single use, but the leagues have those reservations. So there's the rec department league, the group from the high school, et cetera. So those groups have had that reserved time free of charge in previous years. So
Is there a way to add like a surcharge to what the rec department has for their leagues, that would come back to the city for like maintenance of like a facility maintenance fee? So there's like, just for easy math, let's say it's, $25 per, day that they're renting it, and we ask for, like a $10 maintenance fee or something that gets tacked on, then that would come back to the city to help pay for any maintenance, whether it's staffing or like wear and tear, that kind of thing. That way we're getting a little bit back. I don't know what that split would be. I don't know exactly where the fees are right now, but that would be my suggestion.
Governments
something.
cross-charge each other all the time. I would think it should just be written into the fees. I mean, part of it is that, in I've been banging this drum for like 7 or 8 years. This is, as the city continues to expand, these are issues where there should be a separate Parks and Rec department to take on these things from the DPW. And you would have office and clerical staff to handle the bookings and everything else that comes with it. It shouldn't be for a committee of volunteers to sit up here and say, this guy gets a permit, this person gets a permit, this person gets a permit. That's not what we're here for. And that's why some of the people have left this panel, because that's the route that we went down. The software should be something that should be purchased. I think it'll pay for itself over time. We do need to add and increase fees. And if you want to reserve a court, you need to pay for it. If you don't, you roll the dice and you show up and you get what you get is the easiest way to look at it. And if that means we charge the school district a nominal fee to cover the cost, if that means we charge the rec department a nominal fee, so be it. I mean, if you want to use something, you should have to pay for it. Yes, sir.
And just to add to that, you 100% agree with what Mr. Wrench is saying. And I know, Mr. Schleter, how much do we get annually to take care of the pickleball courts?
Zero.
That was zero, he said, zero. So the city of Franklin...
But we've brought this up several times in this committee to say that we have our hands tied to make a policy to say we want to collect fees because we have no person at the city who is willing to manage the software that's required.
And what I was going to add to that was that we need to, and I can start that discussion with the school board and with the rec department, because it only makes perfect sense that if the city is taking care of these facilities, we have to get something to offset the costs. We have to. Because if they're benefiting from this, and I understand it's our citizens, I don't want to charge our citizens to use our facilities, but if they're getting money at the rec department, we should be getting something back for us just to cover our costs. I mean, because what a great deal for them. You know, someone else is taking care of it, and we've got a great relationship now with the school board, where I believe that things could work as a partnership.
And they have just a little, not a lot, it's a drop in the bucket compared to what the cost of the courts are, but they have offered to pay for windscreens on the courts, but it is a drop in the bucket. Maybe something, if you're willing to start discussion, that there are people from out of Franklin that pay, maybe those fees would come to, I don't know.
Something.
They have to pay, it's a nominal fee, it's a cheaper sport for people to play, and you wouldn't want it to go, explode, but if others from out of the city are playing, maybe their fees could be brought here.
I think somewhat you're preaching to the choir because we requested to have a representative from the school rec department on our board so that we could discuss those kinds of things. And also many months back, we discussed sharing their software, and they were looking into letting us use their software that they already have implemented for the rec department to be able to get reservations for court time. And it didn't work out.
Well, I'll reach out to Mike Sprague, school board president. I have some other issues to bring up because we talk quite frequently, and I didn't know this was an issue. I talked to him weekly, bi-weekly.
Sure.
So we'll get the conversation going quickly.
Ray has been very good at bringing us information from rec department and working with us. So it's been a good relationship, I think. And we've made adjustments because of the demand exploding like it has with pickleball in particular. But we have people that want to reserve tennis courts too, and we have the Little League and antiquated ways of doing business, going in, at January 2nd, having to get your paperwork in there, that big line out the door. I know you know what I'm talking about. And we requested this, right, to be put into the newsletter, the reservation. So we heard your message last meeting, and Karen made the recommendation that we put something into our newsletter to make sure people know that reservations are starting and that they can start to do that. So we're trying too, but we're kind of got our hands tied in making policies for software that does not exist quite yet.
Excellent. Well, then Mr. Mayor will have that conversation, and then we'll get a follow-up in the next meeting.
Well, and that's the thing, Mr. Chair. If this is going to be something that's going to come back to the next meeting, then I'll request that a member of the school board or rec department can come here, because I want to get all of you involved in this conversation, because this is where we're going to get it done.
Sure. That sounds great.
As a point of information, Leah Vos is the ex officio representative, and then I forget the other gentleman's name, but they share that role, so they actually have an ex officio seat. She's just not here this evening. So they've been great about trying to coordinate utility with us. It's the fees issue.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll move on to the updates to the 2025 park permits.
Thanks for coming to our meeting. You should come more often.
Mary, I can't win, can I?
I'll bring turtles.
It goes back to Cub Scouts, where she was my den mother. She's always judging me. Have a good night.
Bye, Mr. Mayor. Do we have any update to the 2025 park permits?
Kevin, is there anything you wanted to canvass for this? This is the clerk's question.
Well, the only thing I wanted to say on fees, we're asking for a $25 across-the-board rental fee increase. No change on the security deposit. That's basically just to cover the extra hours we're putting in. It probably doesn't even cover it. So we're asking $25 across the board, all the parks that have reservations, mostly the pavilions and that. We're asking for the on the park permits where they can come in and bring tents and bounce houses. We're asking that all be eliminated so that everything is they use the parks as is. And that's a huge part of that is the liability issue on that. And it's just turned into issues. So that's the big one. We're asking they use the parks as is, not bring in anything. And that hopefully will end some of these issues that have been coming up more and more.
$25 enough?
I was just going to say, is that on the low end? Could we go a little higher?
Well, we could, but I thought I would get booted out of here if I asked for
What
more.
was do you know the last time they were adjusted?
2020?
Yeah, it's been a while. And it was a sizable chunk because before that they were really cheap. And
Didn't we double it?
Yeah.
Well, I will say,
Some of them were quite a bit.
League Play went up $15 to $35 for resident per session for
Indoor.
pickleball for indoor. And then outdoor is single day. It's $40 now. And they also have resident, non-resident fees in the rec department.
But
Is it this?
Didn't the mayors ask to consider increasing non-resident rentals?
Well, we were going after both, everything, resident and non-resident.
So it would be the same.
Non-resident
$25
already
though?
pays.
Well, usually the non-resident is usually double. So wouldn't you do $50 for non-residents?
Non-resident, like I'm looking at one right here for Franklin Woods. A resident is $200, and a non-resident is an additional $150.
Oh, I didn't know that already.
So, but I do like the idea of where it would be just double,
Double the non-resident.
and then, but I'm still would say we need to increase the overall park permit fee. So let's say Franklin Woods right now is $200. I thought I was hoping to get at least $225, but if you would be willing to go to the $250 and then double it for non-residents, I would be.
How long's the
delighted.
time frame on that? Is that
It would start January 1st.
No, as far as the hours, is that an 8-hour rental, a 10-hour rental?
11 to 8,
Okay.
which is more than any neighboring community.
That's a long time, actually.
Yes. We are the longest by far.
I think you should go for 50.
Across the board?
I'm sorry, Mary.
I think you should go for the 50.
And then 100 for the non-residents.
Double the permit fee for non-residents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever the.
Double it or add 100 to it?
Add 100 to it.
Yeah. So I think what
The
you're saying is that
increase.
double the
Double
increase.
the
So
increase.
resident 50, non-resident would be 100.
And now that was for Franklin Woods. Ken Wendell is depends if it's a summer or winter is $225 and $150 additional for So that would go to $275 and then 550 for.
That's still pretty inexpensive for a bill. Yeah, it's still pretty cheap.
So do I hear then you're okay with a $50 increase for Franklin residents, and then non-residents would be double the Franklin resident fee? And we would
Double
leave,
the increase of the fee. So if
Yes.
it's $50, it would be
Yeah.
$100.
Be 100. You add
So,
to it.
okay.
But all they'll do is have a Franklin resident go make the
Sure.
reservations for them.
I think we just did it across the board for every hall.
yeah, we'll do
Just
it on
$50 increase for every pavilion,
50?
and then double it for a non-resident. That's still really
and
inexpensive.
double the permit fee for a non-resident. Yep.
Clearing fine.
And then the security deposit we would leave the same, 150.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Are these changes going to be able to be made if we approved it by the January 2nd timeframe and with enough time for citizens to see the difference in prices? How are we going to promote the increase? Is it just going to be a surprise when they show up?
Well, we have to send the permits out to the printers right away. Matter of fact, we're holding it up for tonight. And then,
Because the newsletter went out already, right? So that's not an
So
option.
it's gonna be a
So-
surprise.
So it'll just be a surprise.
Yeah.
What
Most
is
people
the
are out there
fees
listening
and
to us.
Well, are the
right?
fees listed on the website? That could be changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Do more non-residents rent than residents? No.
we get some, but it's more Franklin
Oh, okay.
residents. We do get some. Matter of fact, we have coming up this weekend, I believe, is one non-resident.
What
And-
about the softball fields?
That's my next thing on the agenda here.
Because that's a horrible fee. That's horrible.
Well, actually, we're proposing is that because we only rent or reserve baseball fields for a very short time in the spring, and what we're proposing is to just eliminate that time frame and make the ball fields first come, first serve. Because if I had to add it up, I would say we're probably $100, $125 for the season we bring in. It's just not worth.
Horrible.
No.
So, because it's such a short time span and we do not have issues with the ball fields, we're just saying first come, first serve. It's mostly just the little ones that come and practice. So, and it's the coaches taking it out of their pocket. And so,
So no reservation?
So you're not going to charge them
And that'll-
anything, and they're just going to
anything.
come first serve?
I think the way you look at it
for
is
Franklin residents.
not to offend you guys, and I know that you know this is true, but you don't put the time and effort into maintaining ball diamonds that would require a fee
Yes,
for what they can get if they go someplace else.
that's one of the big reasons.
Yeah. And for your guys to show up, it's a minimum $50, $60 an hour, and nobody's going to reserve that to
Right.
rent it. So, yeah, I'm not opposed to it.
And it would save work on the clerk's office too, with not having the
Because
staff.
they're only rented April and May.
Yep.
And then they're done.
But they're fully booked though, right? Currently, each season we've been fully booked or no?
The baseball fields?
Yeah.
No.
No? Okay.
We get a week or two that where we'll get 2, 3 a night or something, but never. Not a big deal.
So like the people coming up over at Vernon Park playing baseball over there. Oh, is that through the city though? Is that Little League? Is that not Little League, but is that a?
At Vernon Park, that would be someone that's just either
Playing?
came in and asked for a reservation, or they just walked down the park and started playing.
Kristen, don't we see kids coming up there and playing games up there?
Yeah.
Is that through the rec department? They
No,
must be
they're just
playing?
In the
practicing
evening?
the softball
Yeah.
In the evening, it could be that they reserved it, or it could be they just walked up and started playing.
Oh.
So reservation though gives you the right to say we have this reserved and we're only using it for team sports, right? We don't see any problem with like now the community members want to play ball and then these teams that are in a league, right? And kind of playing a series of games.
Well, they're
Leading up
not-
to Little League and then being on baseball teams in our school system, they wouldn't have the right to tell other people they can't use it, right?
They're not playing league ball. They're
No, I know, they're
playing
like
practice.
little tiny
It seems like league.
little kids. The softball girls play over by us, yeah.
But they're just practicing.
Yeah, that's what I mean, they're
Oh, I thought
practicing.
they were playing
The
other
coaches
teams up
are
there.
reserving they're reserving the right to say, we're using this. And you can't, right? That's the only problem that I see is that you're gonna have citizens, than like, oh, we're just playing kick dodgeball on this ball field, and then we've got these sports teams that won't have like, you wouldn't be like, I'm trying to think of like my own kids and get an email that says I got to be there at 4 for practice for half an hour, whatever. You wouldn't be able to do that because you wouldn't know if you'd have the space or not.
No, that's what he said, first come,
So
first served.
that's the only counter that don't mean to be devil's advocate, but that's the only counter is that we say our reservations aren't to make money because we haven't made money off of them, but they're for the right to be able to say this is our space for this time frame so that we can get our practice in. And I would assume our coaches, who are mostly parents, like volunteering, right, for these rec department, they typically ask the parents to be coaches.
Well, they're from the Little League.
Or Little League, right. I mean, my kids were in Little League here, and we showed up at a certain time at a field, and they played. I'm just saying, we're taking that away by saying we don't have a reservation process. And I want to say, in a meeting a long time ago, was there were some arguments, like people having like beef with each other, you know, like because of use. Weren't there? I remember we talked about citizens getting into fights because they couldn't agree on who was going to use this.
Well, our arguments stem from the pickleball.
Pickleball.
No, pickleball is a whole new animal there.
Yeah.
Calls with irate citizens.
Anyways, I'll just offer that up, that if we take that away, then we take away the coach's ability to be consistent with their families that they're helping to, you know, generate these little new sports people in our city. So.
Well, the coaches have actually, some of them have stopped coming in because they don't want to pay the $6. So they just go and use them without reserving.
Okay. Well,
so
if the coaches feel good about it, then who are we to say?
Well, worst case scenario, we try it for a year without permits, and if it doesn't work and there's issues, then we go back to it the next year. And hopefully you have software that schedules it and makes it easier.
Would the commission like to make a motion about these?
Yeah,
reverse
could we
changes?
make a motion to add the $50 increase and then the double for non-city residents?
I make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
And do we need to vote on the the no rentals for the?
We'll get that.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry.
Yeah. I believe the other one passed. And then would someone have a motion to no longer charge fees for use of baseball diamonds?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Fantastic. The ayes have it. Thank you. We'll move to letter D, parks marketing materials, including maps, pamphlets, etc.
Well, I don't have anything on the maps and stuff, but I do have stuff on the other stuff that's on there. Because the map is already printed up and stuff like that. Those little books that we created, as long as you're changing the prices, then we'll probably just have to throw those books out because the fees are listed in there also, unless we put a note that fees have gone up in that book. But you didn't even use them, so you can just throw them out. They were on park rentals. They were like a 16-page thing.
You could always pull out
Were
that
they
page.
distributed?
What?
Were they distributed?
No, they didn't do anything with them.
Oh.
Yeah, we gave some out at the
At the-
Halloween thing. I had the box of them, but we didn't
Right.
have them out for people to just take.
Right. The intent was to hand them out when they register for the permits or whatever. And yeah, I can change the fees on the website. I don't even think it's on the website even. I haven't seen it anymore. So I can change the fees in there. I think everything else is the same.
And it maybe should just add subject to change.
I
So
think
that
I
in
do
the
have
future-
that in there.
Well,
It
then you're
does say
safe.
it in there, so.
Karen, do you change things on the website, or is that Lisa?
No, I don't. No,
Oh.
I don't touch the
Oh.
website. I only give
Okay.
her the information, and then
Oh,
it either
gotcha.
gets put on or it doesn't. So.
I misunderstood you.
Yeah, she sends a PDF and it gets posted either to your portion of the website, the Parks Commission, just so folks are aware of this. much of the information that Commissioner Milwaukee has put together is on the Parks Commission portion of the website, because you can just authorize that. If it's to go on the Parks or the DPW portion of the website, then we need to get permission from them to do that. So if you're ever like, where is it? It might be under the Parks Commission
So
website.
where are the booklets now?
I brought them back.
What?
I brought them back last meeting.
Brought them back where? Here?
To planning. We have them. So the Tourism Commission paid for the printing that occurred, and you do have funds left, so it might be possible to produce an insert. That would probably be my suggestion. But some of them were distributed at your event, at the clerk's office, in the library. They haven't been replenished. So
Couldn't they be, so they're just sitting in the box? Couldn't they go to the library or some place where people might pick them up and use them?
Yeah, we can add a little note and fees.
yeah, maybe an insert to just stick in.
Okay.
So,
All right.
and you do have funds left in that account that should probably be worked out to be used by the end of the year if you want to do that.
A lot?
Maybe a couple $100. It's the Economic Development Director is the one that's doing the accounting for that, so I don't have like a current amount, but it would probably be enough to cover an
I added
insert.
extra money for signage and stuff in there that we were gonna do. But,
For the kiosk?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are we gonna do that?
We can talk about that when we come to that, whatever. Hey, Michelle, whatever happened to that little flyer that I did for you? With the posts?
The high school has been having some issues with their CNC machine, so it's down currently. So that's been put on hold.
Because
as
I
far
needed,
as-
there was something that I had to fill in. I think it was the date when it was made or something. I had
Right,
yeah,
right.
So just let me know if you want me to
Yeah,
pen-
unfortunately, I wanted to get that. It would have been nice for like holiday seasons for gifts for people, but with the CNC machine down, it's just not.
Yeah.
That's kind of been tabled or put off to the side. So maybe next year we can come back to that. But
All right.
right now, Seth is trying to get it repaired.
Yeah.
We've been having a problem with that. So.
Well, probably when my term is done here, which is in 3 months, I probably am not going to renew my term. So if you want,
Oh, okay.
I can give you the files or something, but you can't really open them because it's done in design. Like, yeah, so you might need it. You just might have to recreate the files and stuff like that. So I'll give all the files that I had created to Marion and stuff like that. So I
Okay.
have huge files. So
Or maybe we can meet prior to you leaving.
yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Or just
Yeah.
text me
Or
with the
email.
with
Okay.
the updates and stuff like
Okay.
that. And I'll
Or
just
maybe
do
you
it.
cannot leave. 'cause
Yeah,
you
I-
have benefits from
No,
this commission.
it's too frustrating on here. So just like you guys are frustrated, I get frustrated because there's no movement forward. It's all backwards. So if you can understand that, and my MS is kicking in a little bit more, so I need to do this. So
I think it's better than it was.
what?
Movement forward.
Yeah, it's
not
moving a
as-
little bit, little
moving
pieces,
around.
but it just gets disappointing.
I know.
So we create things and it's just gone. The next
I know.
it's not there. So
I know.
and I understand it's because there's no the staff's all changing, everything is changing. So I just don't see anything moving forward. So I'm a forward person. I can't. That's hard to do. It's
All the
hard to
more
do.
reason why to stay on.
No, it's
But
yeah. There's
understand.
other reasons too. So I've been in parks and rec forever, 20 years, and I thought I could help out, but
And you did.
I
Yeah.
did. I did.
Yeah.
It's good, but you just need to. It's when nothing gets done. It's very frustrating. So So that's it. I'm let it. Is that all I have to do? Is just tell you I'm just leaving, or do I have to have it in writing or something?
You should let the mayor know that you don't wish to be renewed.
Okay.
Okay, and you can think about it more too.
No, it's all right. 20 years is a long time in this stuff. So, and I just know too much, and it's hard to be honest. Franklin is just a little too backwards. It's hard that we just can't move ahead a little bit, and it's nothing to do with DPW or anything. You guys do great, wonderful work and stuff like that. still a little off key here, like a little bit, so.
And that's kind of why everybody quits.
Right.
They get so frustrated with it. There were some really, really
Like,
great
I know
people
that
on
there's
here
a
in the
beautiful
past.
new park coming up, but I don't know how that's even gonna happen with the staff you have. That's why I was encouraging to get another staff person in for you, like someone that knew more with parks, that they could handle the program, that they could handle some of this stuff, so it's just very frustrating.
You know,
Because I know you're focused on DPW. I understand you are focused on DPW, and you do it's hard work and stuff, but there's gotta be someone that can help, that can manage it a little bit more, you know, on the parks, because we're trying to grow it, and eventually, do you guys know what I'm saying? It's just like, you have this big park coming up, but yeah.
It's going to sit there for
It's gonna
years.
sit there for a long time, because you just are never gonna have enough people to get it through, you know? So sorry I'm taking up all this time. I saw him go.
I've been on this commission for quite a while, and I don't know, it is terribly frustrating, and always I hear how there's not money for this and there's not money for that. Yet Franklin is getting so built up, and we have high taxes. What's going on? Where's the money? Does the city get audited once in a while?
Well, there's never a treasurer. We don't even know how much like, for instance, like, the year's almost over. You should know how many, your finances on how many park rentals you've had already. There should be a line item, what it is, and how much you made, and how much you brought in, and but you don't see it. There's no one doing it. So, isn't this just frustrating? Aren't you all frustrated with this a little bit? To be honest,
I get frustrated that I'm kind of
Karen was our forward, though.
yeah. So that's what it is.
We're gonna miss you, Karen.
No, it's all right.
You were our forward.
Yeah, but the forward wasn't going anywhere. So moving on. So yeah. So all right. So what do we want to move on to next?
Sure, let's move on to the community event engagement.
I don't have anything new, and
right.
Yeah.
Right. What I did is, you remember this little thing here?
Mm-hmm.
We were gonna put this into the
newsletter,
a smaller version of it and stuff like that. I did it in one color like you requested. We just need approval of it or something, so I made copies for everybody. It's just very simple. I think what we need to do is talk to the police department, and make sure that they're on board with this program. You know, like, this is what we plan on doing. Are you good with this? Do you have any suggestions? Is that does anybody know anybody in the police department that can run this through them a little bit?
They have a community engagement officer.
Gary Wallace, he's a community liaison, so we could run it past him.
Do you want to do that?
Sure,
Then?
sure.
Beautiful. Just ask them to say we want to get this going.
Gary Wallace?
He's a liaison?
Yep.
I would suggest also that we get some signs made for the parks so that people know who to call when there's something going on, like, so they know this. They say, oh, I can just call them. There's that little
QR code.
QR code on there that they can go to our parks and learn about our parks on there. So just simple, it's not hard. That's what I meant. I didn't want to cause more work for you guys.
And this would be good.
And
in
then
the
there's no
library,
money,
too.
so yes, there's things that you can do that we can do to help this, to make people aware that they can feel free to call the police department when they see something happening.
That's a good
you
idea.
know, like-
Great idea.
Yeah, I think this was getting after that littering and vandalism issue that was brought up.
Right,
Yeah, so
right.
thanks for that.
Well,
Yeah.
Eventually, like I said, if you can, like, I know they have some cameras at some parks and stuff, but like for Pleasant View, do they have cameras there? At least if you see someone doing something, they can go back and they say, well, we saw you doing this, kind of a thing. So that's how that works. But if we don't have it in the budget, then once again, you can't do it. So makes sense. So, all right, that's all I had for that.
All right, we'll move on to
Could I just say, I know I'm not on the agenda, but I'd like to just, it kind of fits in this community involvement or events. The business, and actually in the newsletter on the back page, it was highlighted for our $50,000 all the efforts. Everyone knows what they've done, especially Courtney. Your push through the city, because I'm not a city employee, but I certainly had the information for the grant to work alongside Dale to get it to a point that someone within staff could move it forward. So much appreciated to this whole commission.
Well, speaking about donations, I once did a thing about donations, and I don't know where that ever went. It never got approved or something by the council. I don't know. It just ended. There's things that I've done through the years that I've been here that it just vanished and went away.
Was it the benches?
Yeah, it was so you can make donations, because that's how you get donations. If you don't, if you don't ask companies or businesses or nice people, they don't give to you because they don't know anything about it. So if you don't have flyers out there, they don't know.
So we all have a copy of it from before?
Yeah, even you made the bench donation off of that a long time ago. We've all had this, and then it was supposed to go to Common Council, and it just, that's where it ended. So, and I don't bring these things up because it just doesn't pay to do it all the time. So, I know.
So, what do we do at this point? Can we still
do a
When
donation?
it was, I can go
Get it
try to
sent
look
to the
for it.
council?
Well, I still have all the
Do
information.
you know what month it was brought here?
That was like when I first started. It was
See,
a
and I
couple years
wasn't
ago.
on
Yeah,
when
you
you
weren't even
were,
here.
so
Yeah. So it's all done. Do you want me to bring it back, or just send it as an email to all of you or something?
Let's see if
or
we
give
can
it to
get
you
it.
to send to them.
Yeah, send it through me.
So that you could. It's just a donation to.
Can we add that to our agenda then?
That's
Sure.
what I was gonna say.
Because it's just the years just go by. All right, sorry to do that. Like we should be getting more of those all the time.
Well, that was part of their. So we sought them out. You know,
Yeah.
they're a company here in Franklin. You know, so we heard about their legacy program. They give donations to all, Wisconsin communities and municipalities. So we went to them. Really, they didn't come to us, but it's a grant, basically, application.
Well, like having the cameras in the parks. If you had donations and they know that you're looking to do that, you could use that money, donations for the cameras.
At the very
Other
least, getting it on the
departments-
website,
Other departments
saying
do
that you
this.
can purchase it.
I know they do. Yes, they all do this. This is not new. This is not a new thing to the world, So, yay. All right, I'm sorry for being so negative, you guys.
We'll go to letter F, the Park Watch, discussion and creation of Park Watch and park cleanup groups.
Well, didn't we just do that with this?
I think we started to.
Okay.
You
That was
said
community
you had a lot of things
I
to talk
personally,
about.
my thought process is when you go with a park watch or a park volunteer group is it's only as good as the person who spearheads it. And the minute they move or have a change of lifestyle or a change in job situation, they fall off, and then everything they've done or built goes with it. And then who's left to clean up what's left behind, and that's the city. And that's
Same
where
as people on this commission.
correct, and that's where things become unmanageable, and that's where they go. So it's great if you want to have volunteer days where people want to show up and do volunteer work or perform. If you have a dedicated group of volunteers, but then they have to have somebody that they're consistently checking in with, or we're going to run into some of the issues that we spent an hour on earlier today. We're a great group of people who wanted to do a bunch of good things, and it wasn't managed, and then we had some other issues that came through, and it became too much. And that's my thought on it. And currently, it doesn't seem like the city has the bandwidth or the money to bring on somebody to help oversee or manage these things. So that's my take on it.
Agreed. Like for this is just a watch. This is people in the park watching. This doesn't involve any, but that's the reason I went that route.
So this is for signs to be put up in the park?
Yes. You can even put them on garbage cans or places, stickers and stuff.
So
Vinyl stickers.
are we going to put signs like this up?
We have to get it approved by the police department.
Right. They may want to add something, so I think that they're going to be totally on board with it. So
I
we'll
do
just
have
let
a
them
color
bless it.
version of it, if you'd like a color version of it instead of just, this is like for the newsletter that's just in one color, so.
So you're taking it to.
I will, absolutely. I'll bring information back. Ooh, should we wait until February? That seems like such a long time.
No, just in casual, just.
Okay, I'll just
run
mention
by
it
them
and
and see.
if they have, because they've got a nice budget.
Did I
Yeah.
miss something? Aren't we
Well,
having
no,
a January
no
meeting?
budget.
No.
They don't need to pay for anything. They just we want an approval
Okay.
that they know what's happening and that we're gonna do this program.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, Kathy.
Or would like to, and if they would not have any changes, because it's just real simple.
So it would be on the January agenda.
There's a,
Yeah, January 13th.
January
We're having a
13th is your
meeting,
next
Yeah.
regular meeting.
We're doing the tour of parks, right, in February.
In
so
the snow?
January.
No, it's
Yeah.
just
Oh,
the
no.
date
No,
change.
no,
No, if you want to.
Let's just stick to where we're at in the agenda instead of.
Okay.
We're almost done, guys. Letter G, park signage. Maintenance and updates to park signage and kiosks in Lion Legend Park, Franklin Woods, and Kayla's Playground with no motor vehicle signs.
What was that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, with the no kiosk things, they have new things that you can use instead of a kiosk, that you don't have papers like all, like we said, we're gonna take down the kiosk, but could we do, and I know this involves the DPW, could we do something like this? Where there's signs kind of with that kind of material that you just showed us, and it's more of a permanent thing, and then what you could do, you might want to, it's just a signboard, and it's a permanent, you would put it in cement.
I'll get you that
and,
and I-
yeah. Yeah, it's a permanent signboard thing. And
Or
then
you slide it in there?
yeah, you put it in there, and you could put like a plastic thing over it in case they do graffiti over it or something. Then you could just get rid of the plastic and just So this is actually what it may say. I
So
blew
is
it
that
up.
like a plexiglass in front of it?
Yeah, you could put a plexiglass in front of it if they graffiti it, and then you can just replace it. You could put it like, you could go two sides with it if you wanted to. But that material right there is the kind that you need, and you can go
Yeah,
four
that's
color
good-
with it.
That's
Yeah.
good quality, yeah.
So here, this is what you could use in it, and I could make it to size. Here, pass that down.
This is different?
Yeah, so what you had in the kiosk over in
Oh, I-
that park was stuff about, I took notes, like I always take a lot of notes. The poison ivy, to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Like all those general things, the wood ticks, or not the wood ticks, the ticks,
the same
how to
thing.
prevent it and stuff. So this is all on there. You had hiking etiquette, someone had mentioned that, I think. Yeah. So this would be on a permanent thing, and it would just be there. It's nice and clean, neat, and this is all changeable. It's just my thoughts from my notes that you had. You see what I'm saying?
Is there a
Yeah.
difference?
And then it would be a permanent thing. Yeah. What?
They're the same.
That's the same. It's just the board, how it would be mounted
Oh,
and stuff.
okay.
So you
one's
could kind of
bigger,
read it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
bigger.
Um,
And it
yeah.
wouldn't have to have that top on. I don't like the top graphic on there, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I would change something. I'd make it cleaner. But so instead of the kiosk that you're ripping down, this could go, because there was 3 entrances, you could get the same thing, put it at all 3 entrances.
Do we know what the cost is? Of something like that kind of material?
We could do the research on it. It's too bad, like, you couldn't work with the high school, like, I think they have a welding class. Do they have a welding class, or MATC? And they could do the frame, like, do a metal frame, so it's more sturdy than wood, it doesn't deteriorate. Do you see where I'm coming from, you
Yes.
guys? Yay, you can put a little lip on it, so it could be in there, like, it's set in.
It's like cover it.
Nice.
So these are just things, it was just from my notes. And you gotta keep them short and sweet. Sometimes it's
So you were gonna get a cost on it, or what?
Well, if we can work with MATC or the high school to see if they could do the frames or something, and the sizes and stuff, and then we can get that sheet made up, put it in there.
So, does anybody have a contact in the high school?
Well, I think we need to see if we want to do it first,
Right,
right?
right.
I mean, I have a contact that I can ask the high school certainly, and I'm sure Mayor could too. But
This is the kind of stuff that you would want in the parks if you're walking in the woods. I
clean.
don't know if they'd want it over by Pleasant View.
Well,
Victory
these
Creek,
I was thinking Franklin Woods. This would be for those 3 entrances. You put them in right there, and then you would have to put all little signs all over the place. You just do one big one.
Yes, because after last meeting, I was feeling a little bad about taking out all that stuff about the poison ivy, and I was thinking we
Well,
needed
that's
to
why-
call the health department and
that's-
have them put something in the newsletter.
Right. Well, that's why I took you notes on what you were saying. I always do that. So
I like it.
I think it's good, and we've got some time because you're not going to get anything into the ground until spring. So
right.
we can revisit this, whether if we want to just do.
But shouldn't we get a cost first to see if it's feasible?
Right. Well, then the other thing, like, because we're not budgeted for it, obviously. That's what great donations would work great for this. You could have a sponsor on the back side of it and stuff like that. That's how you get sponsors.
I've asked so much.
No, I'm not asking.
I know you're looking at me
Oh,
like
no,
I
no,
should go out and
no.
ask. I've asked so much from our community.
no, I'm not
I
asking.
can't ask anymore.
No, I'm not asking you to do it. I just know
Okay,
that.
you're looking at me, so I.
No. I just know when you go to your park there, you have a lot of sponsors and stuff there, and
That are
it's
listed
right,
on
and
the
it's
board.
right out in the open, and it's beautiful. You
Yeah,
did a great
well,
job.
yeah,
with
that
no,
was-
I'm not
yeah,
asking you to do it, but if we had that sponsor thing approved, then we could at least have a letter that goes out and says, we're looking to do this, and here's what we were looking to do. How would you like to sponsor this sign or
What
something?
size is that?
This is how much it costs. Well, we can make those any size we want. I had it, this original one was like 2 by 4, so it's not real huge.
2 by 4.
But we can do it any size.
We'd have to see if the city even allowed sponsorship on signage and all kinds of things as well. So.
Well, they already have it.
Kayla's
Yeah, it's
playground.
all over.
Well, that was people who donated and different.
That was
things,
part
but
of our
going out and
agreement.
selling sponsorship is
Right.
something different.
Yeah, that was part of our fiscal agreement and MOU.
Well, just knowing that you can at least put your sponsorship on the back, or sponsoring the park or something, so. I'll bring that thing, yeah.
Sure.
You guys are so quiet over here. I know, I'm so sorry.
We'll,
But you can understand how this would work, right? This would be much better than those ugly little things.
Did you take the kiosks down?
No, they took this stuff out of them.
But
I
you gotta
like the
take them.
kiosk, actually, but I didn't like the way the stuff looked.
Right, well, this would solve your
Yeah,
problem, because
yeah.
it would be on a nice board and nice color, and it would be fine. That's why I used,
We'll jump to letter A, 2025 concerts in the park. I notice there's nobody here for the request.
They send their regards, and they were unable to attend this evening. So if you want to table it into the next meeting, that is certainly your choice. But the materials that the concerts in the park, they were making the request for the dates. I did recommend that they reach out to DPW to make sure there weren't any issues. I don't know if they did that or not. Okay, so Kevin can comment on that. They received a public grant from the city for their event as usual. So it's really a question of the dates and times, and if DPW is. But they would have been here, but had a conflict. So
We didn't have any issues this year with them driving over the roots of the trees in that area.
No.
No.
Good that way.
Great.
Just one date was kind of close to the 4th of July, but they understood that they're going to have to pull their signs right away. So we're good.
So you're okay with the dates?
Yes.
and they've been doing this for years. We haven't had any problems with them, right?
We had problems, but I think they've been corrected.
Right.
Yes.
So should we make a motion to accept, or do we have to wait till somebody's here?
Normally I would say if they didn't show up, I don't think we should entertain it. But knowing that we already waited this long, we may as well take a motion on it.
I make a motion that we approve the dates for the 2025 schedule of concerts in the park.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I would say no, just because they're not here. But that's just me.
So are you saying no?
I said no.
It's okay, you can say no.
I say no.
It's your prerogative.
I've been pretty standard with that.
I hope it gets back to them.
Yeah, I'll follow up.
Last thing on the meeting is we'd like to change the date of the February meeting to September 17th, as opposed to the week before that.
February, maybe?
Sorry, February. Yeah, December, same thing.
February 17th.
Instead of the 10th.
Yeah, I'm going to be out of the office, and currently our admin staff are also have been in
This isn't a meeting? A meeting.
No,
not
this
a
your,
tour.
your meeting date.
This meeting right here.
The tour's something separate.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
It's a holiday.
The 17th is.
Yeah, President's Day.
Oh.
I'm a government employee. I don't work holidays.
So am I. I think I'll be here.
I'm off. I might be away that weekend.
It was supposed to be scheduled February 10th, but they're going to schedule it to the 17th.
But the next meeting is January 13th.
Right.
Yes, the
Correct.
next meeting's January 13th. So we'll move the February date to the 17th, as long as the building's open, being a minor government holiday. And then, since we didn't have the fall tour of parks, we were kicking around the idea of doing a spring tour of the parks, which would be a Saturday either in April or May. So,
April or May, he said. Okay.
and that would be in lieu of the regular meeting.
Is that something the commission wants to
Kick
look at
around.
doing?
Yes, I would like to do that.
Sure.
Only because the fall one, that was always around budget time, and we missed that budget. Yeah.
I would vote for April, because if we did it in May, that would probably be Mother's Day weekend. And me not being a mother wouldn't matter to me, but
So April 14th is the date of our meeting.
yeah,
That
so
date?
whatever that Saturday.
Saturday is prior.
The
would be
Saturday
12th.
prior is yeah.
I'm going to be out of town.
Sure.
That's
can-
Easter week.
We can pick a date down the road, but that's just
Oh, so we're just going to pick a date?
yeah. We'll try to set something in April.
How about Saturday the 19th as a proposed date?
Sure.
Maybe?
We'll see.
Yeah.
Everybody can check calendars, and I'll check with my secretary and
My
get back to everybody.
The 19th.
Yeah, that's Easter weekend.
Excellent. Well, if nobody has anything else, we'll see you guys in January.
Great.
Take
Happy
care.
holidays,
Thank you.
everybody.